Since they were all desperate criminals, gang leaders, murderers, robbers, thieves, each of them was assigned a personal instructor. After completing the training, their mission was to assassinate the leader of a neighboring country. If they succeeded, they would not only gain their freedom, but also wealth and power. This unit of 31 death row prisoners was codenamed Special Task Force 684. Every day, their only task was training, but the intensity far exceeded that of normal soldiers. One of their required courses was getting beaten. Every day they were beaten for more than 2 hours, and there were traps everywhere. If caught, they'd get beaten again. Their bodies were covered with scars, but to achieve redemption and turn from prisoners into heroes, they endured all the torture and abuse. The instructors showed no mercy, because if they were captured during the mission, their fate would be even worse. If the trainees performed poorly, the instructors were punished as well. To prevent them from betraying secrets if captured, the instructors even prepared various tortures. Red-hot irons were pressed directly onto their skin. Some couldn't stand the pain and jumped into the water. Some were so terrified that they fled before the iron even touched them. In the end, only 3 men endured all the torture, so the commander promoted them to squad leaders. Each squad had to participate in daily boxing matches. If they lost, their training hours were increased. When they returned, "Whoa, this guy looks tough. I'd better cozy up to him. Brother, tonight I'm yours." Their cruelest training was underwater endurance. On the beach, heavy machine guns swept the surface. Anyone who surfaced before the required time was shot to death. They had to stay underwater for 30 minutes to an hour. They also had to cross a single rope over a cliff within 45 seconds. Below were sharp rocks. Falling meant certain death. Anyone who didn't reach the other side in time was mercilessly shot. The soldiers in leopard print uniforms were elite special forces. They crossed in 65 seconds. When it was the death row unit's turn, the commander shouted, "65 seconds! Stop!" Understood? Each team must move within 65 seconds. Even a single second of hesitation puts you in the crosshairs. But then, an accident occurred. One of the young men, terrified of heights, froze halfway across and couldn't move.
All these shirtless men are death row prisoners, but they were not executed. Instead, they were brought to this deserted island to undergo black training. One of the compulsory courses here is getting beaten. Every day, they must be beaten for 2 hours. They are required to cross a 100-meter single rope within 45 seconds, or else the special forces will mercilessly shoot them dead. One young man, afraid of heights, stopped in the middle of the rope and dared not move forward. At that moment, the soldier beside him had already raised his gun and aimed. Seeing this, the squad leader ordered him to hang in midair and let the others pass first. After everyone reached the destination within the required time, the squad leader returned to rescue him, but the young man ultimately couldn't hold on and fell straight down. Since there were sharp rocks below, he died instantly. 2 years quickly passed. They had trained to perfection. Even the hardest underwater breath-holding drills now felt like child's play to them. That day, they finally completed all the commander's training. That night, they were to begin their mission. Their target was to assassinate Newsy's grandfather. They had to ride a motorboat across to the northern hemisphere to complete the assassination mission. 10 minutes after Unit 684 left, the commander received an order to cancel the mission. He immediately set out to intercept them, but for these death row prisoners, this might have been their only hope. After suffering for 2 whole years in preparation for this mission, they completely ignored the commander's orders and insisted on going forward. The commander had no choice but to suppress them with gunfire. After being forced to cancel the operation and return, the 684 Special Forces lost all motivation for training. They were all listless, sometimes even defying their instructors' orders. Some even revealed their true natures. One night, 2 soldiers, unable to bear their loneliness, secretly sneaked out and went into a mountain village, where they assaulted local women. When the commander learned of this, he was furious and ordered the entire island's troops to hunt them down. When they were finally found, they had already committed an unforgivable crime. Looking at the soldiers outside and their comrades who had trained alongside them, the 2 knew they were doomed. They decided to take their own lives to atone for their sins. Just as one was about to commit suicide, the squad leader burst in, stopped him, and took him back to the island. Because one man committed a crime, the entire 684 Special Forces had to be punished. After 2 years together, the soldiers and the instructors had developed deep bonds. Watching his brother suffer because of his own mistake, the young man couldn't bear it anymore. He began to sing the national anthem, hoping the commander would give him a quick death. The squad leader, unwilling to watch him be tortured, rushed forward and killed him on the spot. The next day, the commander went to headquarters to ask his superiors why the mission had been cancelled. Their reply was that relations between the two countries were gradually improving, and peace was now being promoted. Furthermore, the officials in charge of Unit 684 had already been dismissed. Now, no one even knew of their existence. To prevent news of the assassination mission from leaking, the commander was ordered to personally eliminate Unit 684, otherwise, the entire island's troops would be annihilated. Looking at the vigorous and loyal special forces, the commander fell into despair. He had spent so much effort turning these wicked death row inmates into loyal soldiers who could serve the country. They were like his own children, but now he was being ordered to kill them. He simply couldn't do it. That night, the commander first poured out the water from the teapot and then called for the squad leader of Unit 684, deliberately asking him to refill the water. While the squad leader was away, the commander summoned the instructors and political officers to discuss the task of eliminating Unit 684. Among them, the strictest instructor was the first to stand up in opposition, but the political officer, unwilling to see the entire island's army destroyed, volunteered to take on the dirty job and carry out the secret order. The two quarreled fiercely over this. The instructor was so angry that he drew his gun and pointed it at the political officer, and all of this was overheard by the squad leader of Unit 684, exactly as the commander had intended, so that he would learn the truth.
A group of death row prisoners were taken to a secret, uninhabited island, where they endured years of hellish training, all for the purpose of assassinating the leader of a neighboring country. However, as relations between the two countries gradually improved, the nation decided to eliminate this special unit to prevent the assassination plan from being exposed to the outside world. But the captain of Unit 684 happened to overhear this order. The next day, he informed the other two team captains. To prevent the instructors from interfering with the elimination of Unit 684, the political officer applied to the commander to send the instructor away under the pretext of asking for mercy on behalf of the unit. When the instructor left, several captains saw him. They knew that the only person who stood on their side had been sent away, which meant that tonight they were going to be wiped out. They ran to stop the instructor and paid their final respects to him. It was clear they were preparing to revolt. That night, the political officer indeed gathered all the troops and gave the order to exterminate Unit 684. One soldier, unable to bear attacking his comrades whom he had lived with day and night, voiced his objection, but he was beaten brutally by the officer. Meanwhile, on the 684 side, the soldiers were counting their numbers. As soon as the counting soldier left, they immediately got up and began dividing tasks. They had to strike before the army took action. First, they secretly slipped into the armory to seize weapons and ammunition. Although killing their fellow soldiers was painful for them, it was now a matter of kill or be killed. After grabbing the weapons, they launched their attack immediately. By the time the army reacted, it was already too late. In just a few minutes, almost all of the island's troops had been wiped out. The captain went to the commander's office and asked him why he had revealed the news. The commander replied that as a soldier, he must obey the orders of his superiors, but as a commander, he could not let his men die without understanding why. After all, they were all soldiers he had personally trained and raised. After the confrontation, the captain did not kill him. But as he turned to leave, one of the other team captains personally killed the instructor who had trained them. He clutched the instructor's body and cried bitterly, but was then shot from behind by the political officer. Soon after, the political officer was surrounded by the remaining men at the edge of a cliff. They then fully armed themselves and moved toward the coastline. They were discovered by a sentry soldier, who was about to pick up the phone to report, but was immediately killed. They had only one goal: to reach headquarters and demand an explanation. They had trained for years, enduring unimaginable hardship, to serve and unify the nation, so why had their own country decided to destroy them? Through a radio transmission at the dam, they learned that the country had labeled them as enemy troops. Once death row prisoners, they had been taken to a secret island and trained for years, only to be branded enemies in the end. This enraged them even more. Along the way, many armed forces intercepted them, but as death row inmates, they had long ceased to fear death. Having gone through 2 years of brutal training, ordinary troops were no match for them. Just as they were about to reach headquarters, more heavily armed forces arrived, all in full armor, with hundreds of snipers. Surrounded on all sides, they showed no sign of fear. After a fierce battle, the members of Unit 684 fell one after another. At that moment, the instructor rushed to the scene, trying to save them, but he had little authority and was quickly dragged away. The captain of 684 realized that nothing could change the outcome now. He chose to release the innocent civilians, then the men slit their wrists and wrote their names inside the bus. Each of them pulled out a grenade, threw it inside, and one by one jumped onto the vehicle, blowing themselves and the bus to pieces. Later, their story appeared in newspapers, but the reports still described them as enemy armed rebels attempting to incite a riot, all of whom have been eliminated. To clear their names, the instructor submitted a file detailing the truth to the new president. However, the president did not even look at it. The document was locked away in the archives and remained there for many years. Those 31 heroes were thus buried in history. No one knew they had ever existed. Not even their names were known to the outside world. This story is adapted from real events that took place in 1968. Many people may already know, some things can only be understood, not spoken. This explanation represents my personal opinion. If you are interested, you can look up the information yourself. Those who understand, understand. If you liked it, remember to like, comment, and follow.